Hey everyone, I'm TheBellassims and welcome back to my channel for another Sims 4 Creator Sim tutorial. So I already started making part of a frilly bikini set. I've made many frilly items, clothes, accessories, stuff like that in the past, and I've always been trying to modify the technique that I use so that way it's easier and less fiddly and just overall turns out better in game than what I was originally doing. I have found that. So this is the bottom, I guess, I don't know what the individual parts of a bikini are called, but this is the bottom that I've made. It's very, very nice, and just to demonstrate, if we scale it up, everything scales pretty nicely, which is good, because that was the issue that I was having with things in the past. Like if we just go here, and so I made that, added the frills to the bottom of an edited shirt mat. If we scale things up, you can just see it's not that great. It's not ideal, and even like you have that gap there if you move things around, so that's not ideal. The technique that I use to make the bottoms is so much quicker and easier, and I'm going to share that with you guys. So I've already made the bottoms obviously, but I'm going to make a matching top, and we're going to use this as a base. This tutorial is going to assume that you have at least basic knowledge using Blender. I'm also using Photoshop for the textures, but as long as you have a program that can handle layers, then you'll be fine to use whichever program you're comfortable with. So I'm just going to jump out and back into Sims 4 Studio. Here in Sims 4 Studio, I'm just going to find that mesh base that I had planned to use. Here we go. And I'm not using any of the... I can't concentrate, I can't type and talk at the same time. I'm not using any of the original textures, so I'm just going to choose one, and I'm using my own texture, so it doesn't really matter that it's black. And then I'm just going to go ahead and make these blank. Too easy. And I'm going to edit the texture first. Normally I would edit the mesh first, it's just I want to make this, if I open it with Photoshop then you can actually see it, I want to make it not contoured, I guess. I'm just going to do that first, and then it will be better to line up the frills later. Okay, so I'm not going to go for anything too fancy, but this is a tutorial for frills, so I'm just going to go ahead and make the texture, and then I'll skip ahead for when I've done with that. There we go. There's our rainbow top, I guess. I don't know what to call it. And then what we're going to do is we're going to add the frills in between each of those lines there, just like the base of the bikini. So I'm now going to just export that mesh, and then we'll open it up in Blender. Alrighty, so here we are. I think the first thing that we're going to do is fix up this bit here. Okay, I like how that sits a lot better. To make the frills, what I have found to be the easiest method is I use the knife tool, and I make like cuts along where I want the frills to be, and that's why we did the texture first, and then we'll extrude them out and then modify them from there to make actual frills. So I'm just going to go ahead and I am going to do the first line. Okay, and there we go. So basically, I probably should have mentioned, but to use the knife tool, the shortcut is K, and you just click between 2 points that you want and then press enter to make that change. So then we have our first line there. I'll just go ahead and do the rest of them just to get that out of the way. Alrighty, so there's the path outlined for each frill that we're going to put in. I did along the back as well. What we're going to do is we're going to work on just one frill at a time. So I'm going to go into edge select mode and just select all of the edges for this one frill here. If you use shift and alt, it will select, like, that's actually pretty hard to see. I'm just going to change the color. That's a little bit easier to see, kind of. And just going to select all of these. I'm just going to switch to that side. I'm just going to extrude it out and scale it up a bit. Alrighty, there we go. That's good for a start, and you can see that some of these didn't actually show, but there are still faces there. Just go into face select, select the faces, mesh, normals, flip normals, and there you go, too easy. So then I'm just going to select the edge of that frill that we just extruded. I'm going to go select inverse, if I can find it, there, and then I'm going to click H, and now we're just left with that one line there. I go into vertex mode, and then if I go into proportional editing and hit random, if I select just a few of these points in here and then move them down, it kind of moves others along with it. I just do that to kind of get a bit of a base, and then I turn it off and then just fine tune it so that way it's not so jaggedy and a little bit more like how I want it. I thought I would note as well, sometimes you'll have gaps here. Like if I just go into object mode, you can see how they separate. Basically what I do is I just select the two that need to be side by side and scale 0, and then that you still got two vertices, but they're in exactly the same spot, so it looks seamless. Now if we go Alt H, that brings back everything that we've hidden, and everything needs to come out a little bit more. So then I'm going to undo that, Alt H, and that looks a little bit better. I think we're going to bring it up a bit though. Like that. H, there we go. And that's sitting a lot better. So I'm happy with that. One other thing that I like to do, first of all, I don't go into this see-through mode just because it's easier not to, but that's just me. Especially when you're using the knife to make cuts and whatever, you don't accidentally get something that's behind. I'll use the knife, and with any larger faces like that, I'll just make a few cuts and then just edit them a little bit like that, so that way that there's a little bit more of a wave in it rather than just one straight block. Like that's a good example there, how it's very not as nice as this little bit in here. So I'll normally do that last, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do all of these frilly bits here, and then I'll meet you back when I'm done. Okay, so I think that will do for now. When we add the texturing, it's going to add some more detail anyway, so it'll look more frilly. It's time to unwrap now. Basically, what we need to do is we need to select all of these faces. We need to unwrap it, obviously, so that way we can put it in its own spot on the UV map, and it will, well, we can texture it so that way it has frilly like textures, I guess. So I'm just going to go ahead, I'm going to select all these. I'm just pressing C, which kind of gives you a little brush. And if you aren't in, what is it? It's X-ray. I don't think it actually has a name, but whatever this X-ray is, as long as you're not in that, it's just going to select the uppermost face, which is basically what we're looking at. So you don't have to worry about it, well, you don't have to worry too much about it selecting the wrong face. And say you select the wrong thing, just use the middle mouse button to undo it. That didn't take too long, but that's all of our frills selected, and just to make sure, I'm just going to press H to hide it and make sure that there are none left over, and there's not, so Alt H to bring that all back. And then I'm actually going to save this because I haven't done that in a while. I'm just going to unwrap that, and then that's going to give us all the individual pieces of frills. If you haven't worked with UVs before, you've got all of your diffuse maps and stuff here, and just scale, press S on the Y by 0.5, and then that scales it to its true size. I came across this plugin. If you go user preferences, add-ons, you should be able to search for UV, and the plugin is UV squares. I can't remember if I actually installed this one myself or whether it comes with Blender, but enable that and it will give you UV squares toolbar. Basically, if you select a part of a UV and go to grid by shape, it creates a box, which is much easier to create a texture for than trying to line up all of these individual curves. Or even if you don't want to use the add-on or you don't have it, I'm just going to quickly, this is how I used to do it and it works just as well, it's just a little bit fiddly. I'm using the C brush again just to select one side, scale Y0, and that creates a straight edge, and then I'm going to select the rest of it, scale Y0, and then scale that up a little bit, and then that creates a box. But definitely this is a much quicker way to do it, because all you have to do is select it and to grid by shape. Sometimes it doesn't want to work because extra vertice or something somewhere that means that it can't unwrap it properly, and that's why it's going all weird like that, and that in that case you will have to do it manually. Alrighty, that will do for now. And just basically, if you press L, that will select everything associated with whatever you're hovering over, and just keep doing this for each and every piece. I'm just going to move them all into one spot. Okay, and that's all of that done. I always go into the base texture for this, and then that way I can figure out where exactly I'm going to put it. I know that for the bikini bottom, SpongeBob, I put it along the side. That will do. Okay, and that is that. Basically, because we've just extruded it from all of these points, it's going to have, I can actually demonstrate this, the weights are going to be from the point that we extruded it from. That's probably a better demonstration of it. And that goes the same with the UV one. If we go back into edit mode and just, if we go to the UV button here, there is an export UV layout. If we go place embedded and then the UV, we can see where we need to create the texture for the frill. And now I'm going to go ahead and do that. Okay, and there's our frill texture all done and dusted. I'm just going to delete that UV because we don't need it anymore. And there is our texture. And then import it back into Studio, and then we'll see how it looks. Hey, there we go. And now while it looks very dark and streaky, I guess, it's going to be a lot lighter in game. That's what I found. If you as well have some that are messed around the wrong way, if we go back into Blender and then choose our diffuse map and we go image, replace image, there we go, and we replace it with our top texture. All we need to do is find the ones that are back to front, select those. I'm going to select them all. I'm actually going to switch back to the diffuse map so I can see where they are, and then rotate them all by 90 degrees so that way they are all facing the right way. I'm going to resave that mesh and then import mesh. There we go. I'm going to open it up in game and see how it looks. Then try and find the top somewhere. There we go. I am really happy with how that turned out. That's pretty much it for the tutorial, I think. I can't think of anything else to go over. If you need any further help with anything that was mentioned in the tutorial, because I know what I'm trying to say, but I don't know if I convey that well enough. If you do need help with anything, just feel free to comment down below, or I'm always available on Tumblr if you want to start up a conversation there. I want to thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any suggestions for a tutorial or anything that you would like to see, then feel free to leave a comment down below and I'll look into doing a tutorial for that in the future. Anyway, thank you guys and I'll see you next time.